welcome back to Just Jocelyn. This is part 2, and my guest is Laurie Ortolano. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And we're going to finish up part 1 of post-trial briefing. How did these 3 days culminate with this plethora of angry, not angry, people avoiding, people not wanting to talk, just covering up everything they can? What happened that gave you a couple of wins?
Well, when the city had been in their answers, and while on the stand, any witness was taking the position that the city was not responsible for noticing and posting the records of these nonprofit corporations that were formed to enact this federal deal and build the Arts Center. They were claiming that wasn't us. And so there was a blame game going between these two nonprofit public corporations saying it was your fault, you should have done it, and the city
saying, nope, it was you.
Yeah, it was you. So they were pointing the finger at each other. And actually at one point, the nonprofit, the president almost seemed to say, well, it was us. We were supposed to do it. And as I dug at that a little more, the right to know law states that if you maintain a website, that has to be, and you do it consistently, that has to be one of your noticing and posting locations for public records. The website has to be used in a normal and consistent manner for the public to see it. And then you've got to post in one physical location, like a bulletin board at City Hall. They usually do two. They do the front and back of the City Hall building on Main Street and Elm Street. So they weren't using the website properly. And, but that RSA actually says if you have to use it in a consistent and reasonable, accessible location, but it also says if you're serving as a third-party vendor to another company that requires public posting, then you have to comply with the law too. And it seemed to me that the city could have taken the position of being the third-party vendor. If they didn't want to own the companies, then they most certainly were a third-party vendor, and they should have recognized that. And again, it was disclosed right at the beginning when the attorneys representing the corporations gave their opening statements that the city never told these boards what their responsibilities were or explained their governing rules at all. And the bylaws were written wrong. So the city picks the board of directors, has to approve these members, throw them in a room for an organizational meeting, give them bogus bylaws, and never explain their responsibilities for records. To me, that was all a very strong indication that those corporations were the city. The city knew they were going to take care of them.
It was fluff. They were literal little boxes. Check the boxes.
Right.
There you go.
And don't worry about it. We'll post them, and we're going to come and even write your minutes. We're going to take our city people, and
we got this.
We got this. The whole time, though, to the public, they're saying, we don't know anything about these companies. We're not posting them. If you want to come to a meeting, they were holding them in City Hall on the 3rd floor. So, so by Friday afternoon at maybe 1:30 or 2, when Director Cummings went back on the stand and announced, hey, you know what? We are responsible. We're responsible for posting. He took the stand and changed his testimony completely. Completely flipped.
So does that say to you or indicate to you or make you think, it certainly makes me think, in my opinion, that he got his hand smacked and perhaps he was not being honest to the court where you are sworn to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I think that he was not being honest, and I think the counsel for the city might have said, listen, if you've had anything to do with these and it was your responsibility, you buck up and own it. You can't lie to the court. But also, what happened is that the city's answers that said, hey, these are not public bodies or public agencies of the city. When Attorney Leonard was on the stand, I started questioning her about the corporate structure. And Attorney Hilliard jumped up on the city side and said, hey, this isn't about the structure of the corporation. She doesn't have any right to ask that stuff. It's just information requests. And I said, Your Honor, they've made this claim. I have a right to show you why the structure is not such that they are not.
You can't request the 91A.
Right, that I can't. If they're going to make the claim they're not public bodies or public agencies, I need to show you why they are of the city.
Correct.
They're not giving me, I need to be able to present my defense.
Well, you need to set the foundation.
Right, and so he said, I'll let you do that. So with
Nice.
Attorney Leonard on the stand, I said, do these corporations have the same employer identification number as the city? Yes. Does the board approve the directors for the corporations like they do for any other committee? Yes. Does the board approve the bylaws if there's any changes like they do with a mission statement for any committee? Yes. Who's paying for the attorneys representing them in this lawsuit for those corporations? We are, the taxpayers. City of Nashua's paying their legal bill. Okay.
I bet the taxpayers don't know that.
They didn't.
They do now.
They do now. And where did all the startup money come? Where did all the money come to be the source of revenue for these corporations? The bond proceeds for $21 million were split and flowed into those two corporations. She didn't want to answer that. She said it came from the flow of funds. I said, well, okay, where did the flow of funds money come from? Isn't that the bond money? Well, I'm not certain. I don't remember. I said, I think we pressed on that a little and said, hey, if you do remember, we have the flow of funds in here. It's going to show the $21 million. I said, so I said, if the company, and where's their business address? We opened up and looked at the Secretary of State filing, City Hall. And who's their business contact? Director Cummings.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you got those 6 or 7 points. Well, aren't they the city businesses then? So I said
that was a pretty firm foundation.
Right. And the city was like, Attorney Hilliard was standing up going, this isn't right. I object. Well, why? Because I want to win my side. Mm-hmm. Why shouldn't I be able to try and say, hey, somehow these public meetings needed to be posted? And as he objected, I actually said on Thursday, I don't understand why the city didn't just own this and take it on the chin.
Yeah,
admit
it'd
that
be
they
over
should.
and done with.
I wouldn't be laying out the foundation on why the corporate
we
structure
wouldn't
is
be
wrong.
exposing your underbelly.
Right.
You set
laying
yourself
there.
up for that.
Yeah.
Oh, please.
You're laying
Do
there
it
with your
some more.
underbelly exposed, and you're whining that I don't have a right to do it.
Meanwhile, hiring lawyers right, left, and center to the tune of, what was it?
400, and this is probably about 600,000.
600,000, which is, and there you are, fighting for the entire city of Nashua.
On my own.
On your own, no lawyer, paying everything out of pocket, and there the city is hiring right, left, and center.
Right.
Because they're manipulating and changing and...
Right. And their witnesses were a hot mess. So I said, I don't understand why you just didn't own it. Take it on the chin. Own these violations. Just come in and say, yeah, we should have posted and noticed it was our mistake and admit it. But you denied it for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And here we are. And
now we flip on the...
And then we flip because they must have gone out in the hallway on Friday and said, Jeezums, she's got 6 out of 6 for reasons why they are. And Cummings knows that his assistant generated all the minutes, we find out from the president of the corporation.
And you've got him caught in a lie about, in the hallway meetings and videos and everything.
He wasn't credible. So, yeah. So it ended up with that big reversal, which was just like shocking to me. I just didn't know what to make of it. And the judge was like, I think we've resolved this issue now. We have all the information. I know that these are public bodies and public agencies. We've got that honed out. And now we've just heard the city say, yep, we were supposed to post them and notice them. He goes, I think I got everything I need. So,
Excellent.
I was like, okay, I'm going to move on then. I'm just going to move on. But it was weird. It was just, and it also made me realize how hard it is to come to the truth with this city. And you're in court under oath. Mm-hmm. It's like pulling teeth.
Well, and it also seems that there's an awful lot of people not telling the truth.
It's linked, organized.
It's very organized. Their arms are linked, and
they are.
They will not tell the truth, no matter what, until whatever this was. They finally realized, oh, we're in court.
Well, I think they thought it was going to be a big pushover, Yeah. But I ended up being pretty organized.
Good for you.
And getting through my exhibits, it was so challenging. I was so exhausted, and I still am exhausted. I had the court today on this status conference, and I've been going to court since 2021. And I think today was the first day I walked in where I wasn't like anxious, nervous. I got to get up there and figure out what the city's going to do. And part of it might be because I'm really tired, but I just went in. And I felt like I wasn't stressed out for the first time. But I've been doing this for 3 years.
You haven't had to pre-plan.
No.
What if, then this, which is what we have to do.
Right.
Because we're only one person. We've got to try and figure what every person in this game, and it's not a game, but everybody's doing, and you have to think ahead, and that's absolutely mind-blowing.
It's so busy, and I'm not a good strategic thinker about law because I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a good lawyer.
I'm glad you're not.
I'm a better witness, and but let's switch to the constitutional thing. So
Yeah,
now
change
everything's with
gears
the
a little
judge. We
bit,
got
yeah.
30 days to submit a memorandum, a post-trial memorandum, to basically lay out our closing arguments on why
Okay.
we feel our side was right.
And then
We've got
he uses that to decide.
Then he'll issue an order, and it'll take a little while because ordinarily an order is a couple months, but this was a voluminous big case, and I think it's going to take him a little while to produce an order, and I don't expect an order till maybe early fall.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to take a little time. So,
So in the meanwhile, we need to challenge our citizens.
We do.
Everywhere. We need to have watchdogs, and it covers so many subjects. It covers so many issues. And first and foremost, we all need to be familiar and own a copy of the Constitution of the state of New Hampshire.
You do, and I only had one 3 years ago. And, you need to look at that and read it and understand what your rights are, and always remember that that's our foundational document, and we should be counting on that foundational document for our rights, our records, everything we do. And, we've moved toward a very administrative state, of course.
Well, I think you brought that up, and I've been hearing it more and more. I'm hearing it more and more on various news, but they're not acting on it. So we have to take that and we have to push it to the next step. Our rights are inalienable. People like to say inalienable. They are unalienable. They cannot be changed. They cannot be removed. They can't be taken from you. Nobody can supersede them. And the point of the Constitution by the Founding Fathers, the only thing that the Constitution was to do was to protect our unalienable rights, God-given rights, foundational law. That was the job. And then we came along and we said, all right, we would like to have some representatives. Why? For commerce, for trade. Not to tell me what my hair color is, where I can live, what color car I can have, whether I can have gas or electric. No, that wasn't your job. That's not what you were elected for. They were elected to represent us, and we gave them an exact amount of authority. We gave them an exact job, and their job also was to protect our rights. Not expound upon them, not lessen them, not twist them, but yet this is what we're looking. They've all turned into most of them, an administrative group that have decided they know better than us, when in truth, according to maxims of law, this is another, that's stuck in there, another book we should have, Selection of Maxims of Law. Law is the truth. Right. Truth is law, not these administrative statutes, laws, rules, regulations, mandates, feel-goods. They've got to be put back in the box.
Yeah.
Our legislators, our representatives, the Constitution is the box, and they're in the box.
Right.
And the Constitution is the bars.
Yes.
And they're supposed to report back to us on what we have engaged them to do. But we're not looking at that, and we need to understand that. When we say, you work for us, we're not kidding. That used to be a joke years ago. But it's true. We pay the salaries. We pay everything.
It's true. And they... New Hampshire, I think, is a challenging state in a lot of ways because we've got a huge legislative body. We've got 400 House members.
Which is insane.
I think it's oversized. And your Senate. And when you look at the legislation, a body like that can create each year, it's voluminous. And that actually, in my opinion, creates a burden on the courts because they have all these new laws that come into play that then citizens or really attorneys have the right to access or enforce or look at how to work with them. And every change to an existing law is something you have to take account for. So I think it becomes really burdensome to the courts.
I agree.
And I follow the right to know law, and that law, RSA 91A, when you look up that statute, RSA 91A, Chapter 91A, it is not easy to interpret. It is a complex law, and you have to be very, very careful not to legislate too many more complexities into that because it makes it impossible for citizens to access it. And then you want to just push yourself back to the Constitution. This state is really fortunate in that there's constitutional language in the Bill of Rights, Part 1, Article 8, that ensures that government will be open and responsible.
Right.
And we have these rights built in for our records and access to our governmental officials.
And we shouldn't have to go to court
No.
to access them.
No.
Those are our rights.
Those
and
are the
there
rights.
should be
And so
no impediment.
I'm really starting to appreciate more structuring my lawsuits if I have to do any more, and I really don't want to have to do any more. I'm just exhausted. But structuring on them on the constitutional language rather than the statutory language of 91A.
Which
I feel
is
like,
all based on commerce.
Right. I feel like the statutory language is very restrictive. So the right to know law allows you to access governmental records.
Correct.
But they don't have to answer questions. Well, there is an entry point to get your records. And a lot of that has to do with speaking to somebody who's an expert within a department on what's available, how do you maintain your records, what do you have, where are they located. The City Hall in Nashua has become so locked down that you can't go and ask that question. If you write an email, I wrote an email to them years ago, like 3 years ago, and said, can you tell me where you post your notices for meetings?
You don't have an answer yet?
No, they never answered me because that wasn't required under 91A. Well, if I can't find where the meetings are posted under 91A, then right away I'm locked out of getting to the meeting. And they wouldn't disclose that. And, you know, when I went to the clerk's office looking for records that I believed economic development had, that I thought they would be in the clerk's office said, we don't have those records. And I said, well, do you know where they're located? Well, under RSA 91A, we don't have to answer your question. Well, how am I going to find the public records that
If you won't answer
the very basic question on where
wasn't
they're
it-
located?
I'm not sure if it was John Locke. I'm probably wrong. But somebody famous said that the language must be in plain text and you must be able to understand it even if you're jogging.
Exactly.
And so it's become so administrative and so cumbersome and so legalese.
Right.
That it's supposed to be understandable to the average person, and they've removed that and themselves, and the three branches of government have moved themselves over here.
Right. Oh, the attorneys in Nashua have just destroyed us with the games they can play, and I really put that on Attorney Bolton and Attorney Leonard. They have been so destructive to open records and personalized it on such a heavy level. It's just not right. And you know, I see a burden on the courts. That's real. It comes from the way we make up our legislature in the state, how we impose rules. And I think that there's also, you know, a lack of resourcing and probably a lack of recruiting into these judgeship seats, you know, and they're critically important.
They are. But I also think it's a very closed society, and they don't want any other people in there, which is what we are seeing firsthand in court.
I think they need to modernize a little. I'm going to tell you, I think they're like 50 years behind the times. And one thing I found encouraging was I got a email from the Attorney Discipline Office informing me that the rule is being rewritten on disclosure for complaints. So this state had a confidentiality rule. If you file a complaint against a lawyer, you are not allowed to disclose that to anyone until it is fully dispositioned. And when I started filing complaints against Attorney Bolton, and I filed like 10, I lost every one. I had one all the way before the disciplinary board, and then the board started threatening me, and I pulled it out because I thought they were going to send the police to my door or do something. And I get tired of being threatened, but I really felt like they overstepped their bounds. But every time I filed something on Attorney Bolton, I said, I'm not going to follow this confidentiality rule. Gag order. It's unconstitutional. He's a municipal lawyer. We pay for his income with our tax dollars.
Correct.
And he gets to say whatever he gets to say whatever he wants on a podium about me.
Yep.
He gets to use the bully pulpit of the Board of Aldermen chamber to speak any way he wants about me. And I don't get to counter that. You know, many times it happens.
And that's abuse.
That's just the way it's done.
Discrimination and a few other things thrown in there.
You know, and I file a complaint and you get to say, oh, you can't speak about it. It'll be a couple years before we get through this, but
I
don't say anything. So I got notice that they're changing the rules.
I would hope so.
Struck that. And so that language is being removed so complaints can be addressed. They can be made public. And
as they should be.
Well, in all of the professions in the state, when you go through the OPLC, Office of Professional Licensure and Certification, are public. You're not put in a gag order. So this legal judicial system has a very like cabal feel and a very non-transparent feel. So I think they have to create transparency and they have to really honor that. And, even when working with some of the attorneys, I found them to be so misogynistic, so discriminatory. It was really difficult. And
Well, the one thing I found was, there's professional demeanor and there's professional attire and there's professional all of this. And I found that what, the proper way to stand and the proper way to talk and the proper way and how do you this and how you that and you need to this. And okay, I'll play this game. I will play I'm in your sandbox and I'll play nice. But it has to go the other way.
Exactly.
And it isn't.
No.
And I find the behaviors to be rude, sometimes infantile, definitely very misogynist. What I also have found is they keep raising the fees for filing.
Oh, yeah.
So, it costs more and more. My taxpayers are paying for that courtroom. Our tax money is paying for all these attorneys, state attorneys, and these judges, and the courtrooms, and the stenographers, and the court. We're paying for this. On top of that, you're charging us to file, and on top of that, you're raising it. In January, it went up over $100 to file, and that definitely is a slap in the face of pro se litigants because I don't have a client to charge.
Right.
That's coming out of my pocket.
Right.
And, and people say, well, you don't have to do that, Jocelyn. You don't have to do that, Laurie. Well, actually, when you're arrested and you're in jail, you're going to thank us one day because we're doing it for all of us. We're doing it for the Constitution. We're not doing it for the greater good. We're doing it because this is what the Constitution says, and we all need to follow that and know what our rights are. But we're being overcharged. What was our transcript? $800. I don't want to know what yours is. $800.
$1,400 a day. So my transcripts were like $4,200, and I ordered all of them. The city was going to.
Well, you have to, otherwise you can't appeal.
Right. So I had to.
So they got you tied up that way.
We had 6 days of them. So you're talking like $8,000 of transcripts. So it's very expensive to get the transcripts.
It is, and you can't move forward. So when they talk about, former President Trump, that they levied that $415 million fee for him to be able to go forward and appeal.
Right.
Which is unheard of. And it was reduced to 1.75 or whatever it was. I don't remember the numbers. It's for him to go forward and appeal. And it struck home with me. I would never have heard that except for the fact that that's exactly what they did to us. I'm sorry, you can't appeal this unless you pay for the transcript.
Right. You need the transcript.
You have to have the transcript. So it's like, wait a minute, we don't have clients. We're doing it for the state of New Hampshire and all those people we care about, but you're still jamming us up with the same amount of money that you're charging attorneys who get to turn around and charge their clients exorbitant amounts of money. I mean, this is just insane.
It's expensive. It really is. And everything has gone up. And you do need them to appeal. Every time I go to a hearing, I order a transcript. I do. I pay for
it.
Right away.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'll put my order in tonight for my little 30-minute deal.
Yeah.
And mostly because if you're not a lawyer, paraphrasing what went on, I'm not good at that.
No, and you have to quote exactly page.
And I also don't understand. Like today's hearing the status conference was a little confusing to me. I started to get a foothold on what was being said and what was going on. But it was a little confusing to me. I need that transcript to go over and make certain I understand what the judge is saying and where the city was speaking up. And so I always get the transcript because it's a learning experience and it's painful. I hate reading them. I hate reading what I say. I never like looking at videos of myself because I feel I end up looking so deficient that it's a self-reflection and you're not skilled doing this work. So it's hard to look at yourself doing this work. But I also feel really motivated by what is so wrong. And I'm really concerned about the young people in this state. Mm-hmm. I'm really concerned about how they have a voice. They speak up and they speak up in this very polarized environment, and they can be so seriously harmed from their careers to their reputations. Mm-hmm. I really have become very vocal that it's us older people that have to start taking some big swings and expressing ourselves because the damage they can do to us is a lot less, and
And we don't want to destroy, those citizen watchdogs that are trying to do the right thing.
No.
We all have to stand united, but we have to stand taller and stronger.
I know. And, part of me feels like it's not a state for young people. This is not a progressive state for young people. You need young people, but it's not a good state. I mean, I raised my kids here. I loved raising my kids in New Hampshire. They're not here anymore. They're gone. And I'm relieved they're gone.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm so happy they're not in this state. And you start questioning whether I need to not be in this state anymore, or out of this state a heck of a lot more than I'm in it. But, my biggest disappointment is that I was not able to shift the city of Nashua to do anything to open records or accommodate citizens in a much better way. They just became more rigid, harder, crazy on their interpretation of the laws and open government. And
they became dictatorial.
They did. And it was damage at any cost. And I have not been able to get them to turn that around. And I think the only thing that changes that is elections at this point.
It is, and people to stand up, which is what we're asking you to do.
You gotta
is stand behind us.
Write letters.
Write letters. Don't sit back. And stop throwing stones and stop accusing us of using up taxpayer money when it's truly the state and the towns and the cities that are hiring multiple attorneys to go against us little old pro se litigants that are doing our best. We're buying the books. We're following the law. We're working with each other. And we need you to stand with us shoulder to shoulder every single time. Show up in court. Write the letters. Forward these shows. Let everybody know what's going on, because right after it happens to us, it's going to happen to you. And then what is everybody going to say?
I'm sorry. It's going to happen.
I'm sorry.
But then you get in it. Yeah.
You do. Well, thank you once again for updating us.
Yeah.
And anytime, we're just going to continue keeping everybody updated. You need to know what's going on, because you're not going to get a fair and equal shake in the newspapers or, through the city hall or any of those things. Look for the articles, follow Facebook, go to Telegram, go to YouTube, go on and Google Laurie Ortolano and look up all the cases and look up all the interviews that she's done, because it's going to teach you so much, and this is what we're going to need in the future. So have a fabulous day. Blessings to all, and have a great day.